Welcome to our July edition of Let's Get Growing. We know it's heating up now. Remember, in July, we're going to mow once a week, and as it gets warmer, we're going to raise that height on our mower because we want to force that root system deep. And so as the leaf gets taller, it'll shade the ground and make it a little bit cooler, and also will force that root system down. You can plant gladiolas this time of year, and also your hot weather annuals like zinnia, marigold, portulaca, periwinkle, and you'll have beautiful color all summer long, probably up until the first frost. And you can do new lawns only from sod at this time of year. Try and hold off on seeding because you won't have an established root system by the end of the year. When you hand water, we just want you to do your dry spots over the top of your annuals, newly planted areas. Remember to keep your azaleas moist or the flower buds will not form. And once again, deep water, soak, don't sprinkle. We need to force that root system down so that we have an established root system to make it through the winter. Mulch newly planted areas and bare spots. Watch those bare spots, because what's the first thing that grows in a bare spot? A weed. And we don't want to bend over this time of year, do we? This time of year, we just want to take out dead or diseased wood. We don't want to do any major pruning on our trees, because if we do, then we're going to open that bark to sun scald, because it'll sunburn just like we do. And so we just want to make sure that we're keeping that canopy intact and just taking out the dead and diseased wood on our trees. When you fertilize, there's a rule, particularly if you're doing your containers or your flower beds where we have more shallow rooted plant material. We want to water the day before or 2 days before and then come in and fertilize so that we're not burning the root system. This is not true on our lawns, because we're going to put that fertilizer out and then we're going to water it in. Nitrogen is very volatile. It'll turn into a gas and dissipate into the air. That's why they tell you put the fertilizer out and water it in. Also fertilize your chrysanthemums, and if you have the tall varieties, make sure to keep them tied to their stakes. If we're lucky enough to get a rain in the middle of July, don't run out and fertilize before rain, because if you do, all of that's just going to roll right off, wash off, and go down into our streams. You can fertilize your alyssum, verbena, and petunias after you've sheared them, and this will ensure that you've got a flush of growth for fall color. And then fertilize your daisies after blooming, but cut their stalks all the way back down to the ground. Water by soaking before plants wilt, and that way they don't have to stop and start growing. Remember to keep the compost wet. If your plants are wilting in the afternoon, you come home in the middle of July pretty wilted in the afternoon. So wait till you see if they're wilted in the morning and then water. Keep the weeds pulled, because they're going to rob our plants of nutrients and moisture. Careful and frequent cultivation of the top of our soil in our beds and our garden areas are going to keep that top from baking and caking, and it'll also help you keep our weeds down, because those little babies will get turned over and die. Separate and share your lily bulbs, both kind, the spider and daylily. And don't forget, it's pretty hot in July, and our birds will need some food too, so feed the birds. You know, we've talked about hanging baskets in the past, or containers, and we always want to have a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. This periwinkle is going to act as our thriller and our filler, but as our spiller, we're going to add wandering Jew. And this is really easy. We're going to direct seed it or plant it into this container, and which is exactly what we did on this one, so that we're going to have our filler and our spiller. So it'll also round this basket out. And on Wandering Jew, you're going to have leaf nodes. And you can see it's where the leaf comes off, and right here is the little node. And when I pull this leaf off, you can see it's right here. So I need a leaf node to make a cutting. So I'm going to break it right above the leaf node. And then I'm going to just take, in this case, a Sharpie, and I'm going to make a hole. And then I'm going to stick the Jew cutting in, poke it down, firm it up. I do want to point out that you need to have the leaves facing outward and not inward. So I'm going to replant it back in the same hole and kind of drape it over. And then I'll go to the next one, break it off, and we're going to follow around the edge. I'm going to put one right behind these so that I have a nice full container. And you can see that it's already starting to kind of fill out. Now, with Wandering Jew, we can continue around the edge of the pot like this, which is going to give us a real uniform drape, or we can always just, as we have on these previous ones, we're going to break it right off at the edge of the pot, and then we can just take this over to the container and actually lay it on the soil, sprinkle a little bit of soil on top. It'll grow just like that. And it'll branch at each leaf node and come out. This, where we put the tip cuttings in, will be fuller faster. And this one will be just as full, just a little bit slower. One time a young lady was speaking to me about Wandering Jew in her yard and how she just really didn't make her happy around a bird bath. So she was just walking all over it, breaking it up so it'd die. And I said, darling, I'm sorry, but I believe you're spreading it, because Jew is so aggressive that it will take off and grow when it's broken up on the ground, if you walk on it, etc. Now, I wouldn't put it in a walkway, but in your beds, if you happen to step on it, there's no problem. You're just making more cuttings. We're going to break off one more. We have our leaf node. We're just going to take, this is a really nice cutting. Once again, make our hole, stick our cutting, firm the soil. And the other thing that I've done is I've evened out this little basket so that it's more uniform, and it'll drape and become a nice, beautiful hanging basket. So we have made a much fuller periwinkle basket, giving us our thriller, our filler, and our spiller.